My nephew said he used my card for snacks, then drained $9,450 overnight. But before I share my story, please take a minute of your precious time to support our channel. Your support and love keeps us going. My name is Mariah Ellison, a 34-year-old financial planner on the south side of Chicago. Numbers have always made sense to me. Clean, neutral, honest. People? Less predictable. Especially my younger sister, Danica. We grew up in a brick duplex in Bronzeville, daughters of two school staffers who stretched every paycheck and made sure we understood that a dollar has a job. If we wanted something, we earned it. I carried those lessons into adulthood like prayer beads. By my early 30s, I'd carved out the kind of stability I used to circle in catalogs as a child. A modest condo near Hyde Park, a reliable sedan, a healthy rainy day fund, and retirement contributions I didn't have to second guess. My clients trusted me because I told them the truth and lived by it. I didn't take shortcuts, and I didn't pretend money was magic. Danica was built different. At 33, she could talk anyone into extending a deadline, waiving a fee, or spotting her until Friday. It was a talent that kept her floating and, somehow, always left somebody else bailing water. Years back, she'd hit me up for $600 just until the mechanic finishes, then $950 so we don't get hit with a late fee, then $2,300 for a can't miss apartment deposit she walked away from 8 weeks later. I stopped counting after what I estimated was over $12,000 through the years, little drips that quietly formed a lake. 4 years ago, her marriage folded. Since then, appearances stayed shiny, fresh nails, new phone, brand name bag, while the bills piled up out of frame. Her son, Jalen, is 15 now. Smart mouth, quick mind, those lanky shoulders boys grow into. He rarely heard no. Newest game console? Check. Limited edition sneakers? Check. When I tried to talk budgets, Danica would laugh it off. We get one life free. I want Jalen to have experiences. 7 months ago, Danica lost her front desk job at a neighborhood health clinic. Too many late arrivals, too many call-outs. She phoned me crying, said the lease was up, said they'd figure it out if I could just help them stay afloat. I did what big sisters in our family do, opened my door. When they moved into my place, I set clear rules. A shelf in the fridge labeled with their names. A list on the pantry. What's communal? What's not? My home office, off limits. My bedroom, private. And the big one, I said it twice, my wallet, purse, and financial files were never to be touched. First weeks, we found a rhythm. Little slips showed up. Jalen used my pricey facial cleanser like it was hand soap. Danica borrowed a blazer without asking. Pens and sticky notes migrated from my desk to the coffee table. I corrected gently, but firmly. She'd sigh, toss me a half smile, and say, "We family, I didn't think you'd trip." Or, "He's a teenager, Ree." For all the boundary crossing, I cared about that boy. On evenings when Danica was out networking or applying to jobs, Jalen would flop at the kitchen table and talk software, YouTube tutorials, a tiny app he wanted to build one day. He confessed he felt like an outsider at his new school. Sometimes he admitted the pressure of money talk at home sat heavy on his chest. I saw the kid he could become if someone insisted on lines and ladders. 2 months in, I offered more help than I probably should have. We spread Danica's bills and collection notices across my dining table, color-coded late fees, and set up auto-pay for the essentials. I created a simple budget and added her as an authorized user on one of my cards, emergencies only, after she promised, hand over heart, to clear any charge with me first. She hugged me, said I'd saved her life. I wanted to believe a corner had been turned. Then came the Wednesday that cracked the facade. Markets were jumpy. I'd spent 12 hours studying nervous clients. By the time I got home, all I wanted was a quiet couch, a soft blanket, and a glass of Cabernet. The condo was unusually still. No YouTuber shouting from the living room, no half-heard phone call drifting from the hallway. Jalen sat at the dining table scrolling. "Hey, Aunt Ree," he said without looking up. I used her card for snacks. That cool. Air thinned in my lungs. What card? The blue one. In your purse. My blue card is the one that sweeps through my main checking account and covers business reimbursements automatically. Jalen, you know my purse is off limits, I said, keeping my tone even. How much? He shrugged. Like $20. $20 didn't square with the itch under my skin. I opened my banking app. The screen filled with a blizzard of charges, not one convenience store. Digital storefronts, gaming platforms, clothing sites, food delivery, micro purchases stacked beside hefty ones, transactions across 2 of my cards, and a payment app one rarely touch. Jalen, I said quietly, this is not $20. This is a lot. His eyes flicked to my phone. Maybe your card got hacked. I waited him out. Silence pressed. He shifted, then sighed. Okay, I bought some stuff in my games. It didn't look like real money. You click once, and it's just there. The totals kept climbing as I scrolled. $420 bundles. $280 custom skins. A $360 clothing order. A $150 delivery full of energy drinks and candy. And more pending. My heart did that loud, slow pound that makes your ears ring. These are hundreds at a time, I said. You knew it was money. It's just virtual, he mumbled. It's not like taking cash out your hand. I took a breath. Where's your mother? Out, said she'd be back later. I spent the next hour pulling statements, printing screenshots, itemizing. When Danica walked in with shopping bags swinging, I slid the stack toward her. Jalen used my card information, I said. More than $9,000 in the last few days. The exact tally blinking at me was $9,450 across 1 debit card, 1 credit card, and a handful of in-app purchases that hadn't even hit yet. Her smile faltered, then reappeared like stage lighting. Girl, it cannot be that deep. These apps trick kids. We'll just call the bank. That would be lying, I replied. He took my information and spent my money. That's theft. And it didn't start today. She tossed a hand. You make good money, Ree. If you didn't want him to use it, lock your bag. I stared. Are you hearing yourself? You're excusing him because it's me. It's not excusing, it's a life. He's 15. Kids test things. Kids test fences. They don't digitize my wallet. My voice stayed calm, but something iron-hard slid into place inside me. You are his mother. Boundaries come from you. Her eyes sharpened. Don't tell me how to raise my son. You don't know what it's like, doing this alone. This isn't about single motherhood. It's about respect in my home, for my property. I gestured at the papers. These are not snacks. These are deliberate purchases, some of them high-value digital bundles, and an order scheduled for delivery. We spiraled fast, old resentments rising like steam. She said I loved money more than family. I reminded her she was living under my roof, rent-free, eating groceries I paid for, while telling herself stories about what I wouldn't miss. She threatened to leave. I said I wouldn't be guilted into subsidizing bad choices. We hit the point where nothing we said could land anywhere useful. I'm going to bed, I said finally. We'll talk in the morning. Behind me, I heard her mutter, it's just money. In my room, I closed the door and let the tears come. Hot, humbling, necessary. This wasn't only about dollars. It was about a boundary I'd drawn in Sharpie and watched them step over in bright white sneakers. It was about trust shredded so casually it felt like a dare. Sleep wouldn't come. I reopened my laptop and combed through accounts with the same patience I use when untangling a client's mess. The pattern was ugly. It hadn't been a one-off. Small charges the first day, testing the wire. Bigger ones the next, seeing if the alarm would sound. By day 3, they were sprinting. I checked my cards in the drawer. Everything was physically present. But the plastics showed smudges they hadn't worn yesterday, and my browser history had been wiped. Something I never do. A cold hunch sent me to Jalen's common area Chromebook. The recent tabs had been scrubbed, but the autofill suggested logins I didn't recognize. My stomach sank. This wasn't an impulsive mistake. It was methodical. A notification pinged. A fresh charge pushed through. $210. on my business card for another gaming marketplace. After everything that had just happened, it was still happening. I walked to the guest room. Light under the door. I knocked once, then opened. Jalen jumped. Minimizing a window, he struggled to hide. "What are you doing?" "Homework," he offered, too quick. "Show me." He clicked the window back open. A cart sat full of shiny digital items totaling $210. My chest burned. I picked up his phone from the nightstand. In a hidden folder sat photos of my cards, front and back. His search history, what was left of it, held questions about using someone else's card online and whether minors get in trouble. I left without lecture, his phone and the family laptop in my hand. Back in my room, I forwarded every receipt to a folder, flagged every suspicious email. Several had been marked red when I hadn't opened them, and screenshot the lot. The more I gathered, the clearer the picture. This wasn't just a kid being careless. Someone had coached him. When the clock slipped past midnight and into a slick, exhausted quiet, I stopped asking whether I was overreacting. I wasn't. I was underprotecting. By the time the condo went dark, one thought repeated itself like a drumline. Boundaries mean nothing without consequences. I didn't know exactly how tomorrow would look, but I knew this. Our family story was about to change, and I would be the one to turn the page. I sat cross-legged on my bed with a legal pad and a mug of mint tea I barely tasted, and I went to work the way I would for a client in crisis. Calm, thorough, unflinching. Step 1. Shut the doors. I froze every card tied to my name, then changed each password like I was braiding armor. Longer, stranger, layered. I turned on two-factor authentication everywhere and redirected replacements to my office address. The blue card that runs through my main account? Locked. My business card? Locked. The rarely used payment app Jalen had discovered? Locked and quarantined. Step 2. Remove temptation. Months back, I'd added Danica as an authorized user on a single card for emergencies only. I pulled the statement and my jaw tightened. Salon charges, dinners out, clothing hauls that had never crossed a true emergency. I revoked her access, archived the evidence, and froze that card too. Step 3. Follow the trail. When I helped Danica organize her finances, she'd handed me her logins so I could set up autopay. She never changed them. I signed in. Her checking account held $411, and her loan credit card teetered near its $4,500 limit. The spending pattern was a familiar tangle, small treats that pretended not to be a habit. Then I saw something worse. Transfers from her account to Jalen's teen wallet, followed by suspicious reimbursements, arriving in mine, tiny amounts, mislabeled, threaded between bigger charges. It looked like an amateur attempt to launder stolen funds back toward her bills. That was the last straw. I placed a temporary security hold on the accounts within my administrative reach, the kind that requires identity verification at the bank before anything moves. I submitted fraud notices for the transactions pulled directly from my cards, saved confirmation numbers, and filed every screenshot in a folder titled Household Incident. Step 4. Build a paper spine. I totaled what I'd floated Danica since we were barely out of college. Loans, bill rescues, just this once bails. The running estimate I used to wave off as over 12 grand was a dreamer's math. The real number in my spreadsheet blinked back $28,970, and that didn't include the $9,450 siphoned this week. I opened a fresh checking account at a bank I'd never used, moved a portion of savings there, and set alerts that would bark the second anything twitched. Then I drafted an email to my attorney, Attorney Nia Cole, a South Loop straight shooter, outlining the situation and asking for guidance. Best path to dispute, my rights if I needed to evict, what a family-level repayment agreement should include to hold up if anything went sideways. Finally, I wrote a letter. Measured, clear, not cruel. It laid out what happened, what I'd done, and what came next if Danica and Jalen wanted to remain in my home. Full repayment of the $9,450 over time, on paper. Weekly therapy for all three of us for at least 8 weeks, plus individual sessions for them. A financial literacy program for Jalen that I would help arrange. A written house agreement. Boundaries, consequences, timelines. Zero access to my cards, office, or mail. Non-negotiable. I signed it with love. Not the soft kind. The sturdy kind. I must have drifted off around dawn because the screaming that snapped me upright felt like a fire alarm. What do you mean my account is frozen? I have to buy groceries. Danika's voice ricocheted off the kitchen tile. I tied my robe and walked in. Jalen sat at the table, chewing his lip. Danika paced with her phone to her ear. She saw me and stabbed the hang-up button like it had personally offended her. Did you do this? She thrust the screen toward me, the banking app flashing a red warning. Yes, I said evenly. I did. You had no right, she snapped. That's my money. A good chunk of it is mine, taken from my cards, then bounced through Jalen's app as if that made it cleaner. I placed my folder on the table and opened it. I documented everything. She scoffed, but her eyes flickered. You're tripping over a few charges. Kids make mistakes. This is $9,450 in 3 days, I said. Not a few. Not a mistake. I slid a page across the table. Here's the gaming marketplace at $420. Here are the clothing orders, plural. Here's a $210 purchase after we talked last night. Maybe her card got hacked, Jalen offered weakly. I turned to him. If it was hacked, why are there photos of my cards on your phone? Why are there searches about whether minors get in trouble for using someone else's card? He shrank, then lifted his chin, shame and defiance wrestling. I didn't think it was like real money. Money is money whether it's plastic, paper, or pixels, I said. Where did the idea come from that I wouldn't notice? Or that it was okay? Silence. Then the smallest voice in the room chose honesty. Mom told me you wouldn't mind, Jalen said, eyes shining. She said you got it like that and we needed it more. Danika rounded on him. Boy, don't you. He flinched, then pushed through. You said Aunt Ree was stingy. You said it was fair. The kitchen went quiet enough to hear the fridge hum. I looked at my sister, the girl who once split a candy bar with me in a movie line and tucked the bigger half into my palm because I had braces and couldn't bite, and I saw the grown woman who had learned to make emergencies out of preferences. Is that what you told him? I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried the old magic. Tears pooled. The voice went soft. I can't believe you're doing this to us. We're family. We don't have anywhere else to go, Ree. The words used to be a hook in the soft parts of me. Today they hit steel. I'm not doing anything to you, I said. I'm stopping what's being done to me. And I am offering a way forward. I set my letter on the table and slid it toward her. I've frozen everything that touched the stolen funds, I said. I've documented all unauthorized charges. I will dispute them formally. Some companies treat this kind of thing as friendly fraud, unless there's a police report. I'd prefer to handle it inside our family. That requires accountability. She snorted. Accountability? With what money, since you froze my account? The hold is temporary. You agree in writing, we map payments, I'll lift the hold, so you can function. We also have a therapy appointment this afternoon with Dr. Marissa Avery in Hyde Park. She squeezed us in. Therapy. She rolled her eyes. We need you to stop acting brand new. I need my home to be safe, I said. For me. For you. For Jalen. I'm not signing anything, she said, chin jutted. Unfreeze my money, or we're out. Where? I asked softly. You have $411 in checking, a near-max card, and a rental history that won't charm a landlord. If you walk without the stolen money, and without a plan. I'm not holding you hostage. I'm asking you to choose structure over chaos. For a heartbeat, I watched the math happen behind her eyes. Pride grappling with reality. Pride rarely pays rent. A chair scraped. Jalen stood. I want to do it, he said, voice small but steady. The therapy. The paying back. I don't want to be that person. My throat tightened. Thank you for saying that. Sit down, Danika told him, but the fight was leaking out of her, replaced by a tired kind of fear. She looked at the letter, then at me. If I agree, you'll unfreeze the account long enough for groceries and bus fare? We'll set a cash envelope today, I said. And we'll do it together. She exhaled a ragged sound. Fine, she said, not gracious, not warm, just honest about the corner she'd backed herself into. I'll go to your little session, but don't expect me to beg. I don't want groveling, I said. I want truth. And change. She tapped the paper with a fingernail. And if I don't sign, then I file what I need to file, I said, meeting her eyes. And we go our separate ways. The old US would have argued for hours. The new us sat with the weight of the moment. Jalen slid into his chair, shoulders shaking just a little, then stilling as he breathed. Can I say something? He asked. Always, I said. I knew it was wrong, he whispered. I did it anyway. I don't want you to hate me. I don't, I said. I love you. Love is why I'm drawing a line you can see. He nodded, wiping his face on his sleeve. Get dressed. I told them both. We'll sign, lift what needs lifting for the day, and we'll be on time to see Dr. Avery. I gathered the folder and letter and tucked them under my arm. For the first time in days, my hands weren't shaking. This is what boundaries feel like, I thought as I headed to my room to change, less like a wall, more like a well-built door. It opens. It closes. And the people inside sleep better. The office of Dr. Marissa Avery sat on the second floor of a modest building just off 55th Street. The waiting room was painted in warm blues and greens, with tall plants soaking in the morning sun. The three of us filed in, Danica stiff with crossed arms, Jalen hunched and quiet, and me holding the envelope with my notes and conditions. Dr. Avery greeted us with a calm smile. A black woman in her 50s with silver locks and a voice that carried both authority and gentleness. She had the kind of presence that softened even the hardest postures. Thank you for coming in on such short notice, she said. Let's start by hearing from each of you what brings you here. The silence was heavy until Jalen spoke. His words surprised me with their bluntness. I stole almost $10,000 from my aunt, he said, eyes fixed on the carpet. I took pictures of her cards and used them online. I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway. Dr. Avery nodded. That's a very honest start, Jalen. What did you tell yourself while you were doing it? At first, it was just for snacks, he admitted. Then it was games. Then it got easier to keep going. Mom said Aunt Rhea's plenty, so I thought it wasn't that bad. At that, Danica shifted uncomfortably, but didn't jump in. And how do you feel about it now? Dr. Avery pressed. His voice cracked. I feel awful. She trusted me. I broke it. The room sat in his honesty for a beat. Then Dr. Avery turned to my sister. Danica, what's your perspective? She sighed, arms still crossed. Look, things spiraled. I didn't mean for it to go that far. But Mariah freezing our accounts, threatening police. Families shouldn't do each other like that. Did you know about the card use? Dr. Avery asked directly. Jalen cut in before she could answer. Mom told me to do it. His voice was quiet but firm. She said Aunt Rhea was being stingy, and it was fair to take some. Danica's mouth opened, ready to deny, but then shut again. The mask slipped, and the truth leaked through her silence. Finally, in a whisper, she said, I told myself it was justified. She's always had it easier. She never had to juggle rent with groceries. I thought maybe I was owed. Dr. Avery leaned in slightly. And what lesson do you think Jalen learned from that? The question landed heavy. For a moment, my sister looked lost, like she was seeing her son from the outside for the first time. That it's okay to take, she murmured. That if someone else has more, you can help yourself. Jalen's eyes watered. That's what I thought, he whispered. That's why it didn't feel wrong at first. I sat forward. This isn't just about money. It's about trust. I opened my home to you both. I wanted to help. Instead, I was robbed in my own house. My voice shook, but I kept going. If this doesn't change, we'll destroy what little family we have left. Dr. Avery let the silence breathe, then said, So, Mariah, what do you need in order to move forward? Accountability, I answered. Acknowledgement. Real changes. I need them to repay the money, even slowly, and I need guardrails in place so this never happens again. The therapist nodded and looked to Danica. Are you willing to accept responsibility? My sister stared at her hands. For a long moment, I thought she'd shut down completely. Then her shoulders slumped. I've made a mess of so much. I don't want Jalen repeating my mistakes. Yes. I'll try. Trying isn't enough, Dr. Avery said gently but firmly. Commitment is. Are you willing to commit to a structured plan, even if it's uncomfortable? Danika's voice cracked. Yes. For the next 40 minutes, Dr. Avery guided us through creating that structure. It wasn't abstract. It was written, detailed, and signed by all three of us. Repayment plan. Danika would secure employment within 2 weeks and begin paying $150 a month toward the debt, increasing as her income grew. Jalen would contribute through chores and any part-time work he could take on, tracked in writing. Therapy commitment. Weekly joint sessions for 8 weeks minimum, plus individual sessions for both Danika and Jalen. Financial literacy. Jalen would enroll in a teen money management program offered by a local community bank. House agreement. Clear rules about privacy, boundaries, and consequences if they were broken again. When Dr. Avery placed the agreement in front of us, Jalen signed without hesitation. I signed next. Danika hesitated, then pressed the pen to paper with a shaky hand. It's not legally binding, Dr. Avery reminded us. But it's a covenant. Your word, witnessed here. Real healing will take time, but this is where it begins. As we left the office, Danika lingered by the door while Jalen walked ahead. She turned to me, voice low. I know sorry isn't enough, but I am sorry. I let jealousy eat me up. I see that now. It wasn't a miracle transformation, but it was the first real crack in the wall she had built around herself. For the first time, I believed she might actually want to change. That evening, back in my condo, the atmosphere felt different, still tense, but not poisoned. Jalen volunteered to cook spaghetti for dinner. Danika helped set the table without me asking. It wasn't trust yet, but it was a start. For the first time since the nightmare began, I allowed myself to imagine that the line I drew in the sand might hold. The next few weeks tested every part of the agreement we'd signed in Dr. Avery's office. I unfroze Danika's accounts so she could function, but I kept close watch. Each month, I requested copies of statements. She wasn't thrilled, but the visibility forced her to make different choices. That first week, she applied for jobs nonstop, and by the second, she landed work as a receptionist at a dentist's office in Chatham. The pay wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and for the first time in years, she brought home money without borrowing mine. Jalen jumped into his part too. Every Saturday, he took on house chores, laundry, cleaning, grocery runs, with an energy that surprised me. One afternoon, I came home to find him with a notebook spread across the dining table. What's this? I asked. A plan, he said, pushing his glasses up his nose. I want to start a coding hustle, basic websites for local businesses. I could charge like $50 a site. My teacher said it's a good way to practice and make money. For the first time, I saw him thinking beyond the instant gratification glow of in-app purchases. We spent that evening mapping out costs, timelines, and pricing. His enthusiasm lit a spark in me too. I remembered what it felt like to be his age and realized money could be built, not just spent. Of course, the old habits didn't vanish overnight. One Sunday morning, Danika sighed heavily while reviewing her repayment sheet. Do you really need me to track every dime? It's not like I went out and stole a car. I stayed calm. It's not about punishment. It's about showing progress. Every dollar proves you're serious. She rolled her eyes, but later that week, she handed me her first payment, $150, cash, folded into an envelope. It wasn't much compared to the mountain owed, but it was the first stone laid in the right direction. Jalen had his moments too. He slammed a few doors, complained about missing hangouts with friends while doing chores, even muttered once that I was treating him like a prisoner. I reminded him gently that freedom comes with trust, and trust comes with consistency. He grumbled, but he still did the work. Therapy peeled back more layers than either of them expected. At one session, Jalen said quietly, "Mom, you always told me it was okay to take what people would miss. But then you got mad if someone did it to you. I never knew the real rules. The words hit Danica like cold water. She started crying in a way I'd rarely seen. No drama, no manipulation, just raw. She whispered, "I didn't realize how much I was teaching you without meaning to." For me, therapy highlighted another truth. I had enabled her for years. Every time I bailed her out, every time I swallowed resentment in silence, I reinforced the belief that she could escape consequences. Dr. Avery told me once, being responsible doesn't mean carrying everyone else's load. That line stuck with me. By the end of the second month, the shift in the apartment was visible. Meals became shared instead of separate. Danica started bringing home groceries without me asking. Jalen came home excited one day, waving a crumpled receipt. He had just earned his first $50 building a website for a corner barbershop. That night at dinner, he announced, "I'm putting half in savings and half toward what I owe you." His grin was shy but proud. I nearly cried. 3 months later, our Sunday tradition was set. They cooked, I set the table, and we ate together. The air was lighter, the arguments fewer. Danica had even been promoted to office manager, more hours, more pay. She made steady payments each month and, on her own initiative, enrolled in a financial management class at a community college. "I never thought I'd like numbers," she admitted one evening, "but my professor said my budget spreadsheet was the cleanest he'd seen." Pride softened her face in a way I hadn't witnessed in years. Jalen's coding hustle grew too. He'd done 2 small websites for neighborhood shops and was working on one for a local restaurant. Every dollar went into a joint account marked for debt repayment and college savings. "I'm thinking about computer science," he said to me one night. "Do you think that's smart?" I smiled. "I think it's brilliant." Then came the news that left me with bittersweet relief. Over dinner one Sunday, Danica cleared her throat. "I found an apartment we can afford," she said. "It's not fancy, but it's in a decent neighborhood with good schools for Jalen. I thought I should check with you first before signing." A lump rose in my throat. Relief, pride, and a surprising sadness all tangled together. "That's wonderful," I told her sincerely. This was always the goal, independence. We already have a repayment plan that works no matter where you live. Jalen looked up from his plate. "I still want to do websites even after we move. I'm saving up for a better laptop." "That's a smart investment," I said. "We'll research options together this weekend." For the first time in years, the future felt less like a storm cloud and more like a horizon. The theft had almost broken us. But the structure, the therapy, and the insistence on accountability were rebuilding us, slowly, painfully, but honestly. As I watched my sister and nephew laugh over who burned the garlic bread, I realized boundaries hadn't destroyed our family. They had saved it. When Danica and Jalen finally packed their bags, my condo felt at once emptier and lighter. The cardboard boxes stacked by the door were filled with more than clothes and kitchen items. They carried proof that, for once, my sister was moving forward instead of running away. The new apartment wasn't fancy, but it was hers. A second-floor walk-up in South Shore, clean enough, safe enough, and within walking distance of Jalen's school. The first night they slept there, she texted me a picture of their mismatched plates, laid out on a folding table. "Not much, but it's ours." For the first time in years, I believed her. We didn't stop meeting. Every Sunday, they still came back for dinner. Sometimes Danica cooked, sometimes Jalen tried a recipe he'd found online, and sometimes I ordered takeout, so we could all just laugh without dishes hanging over us. Those meals became a marker of how far we'd traveled. The repayment continued, slow but steady. By the end of 6 months, nearly $2,000 had been returned to me, a small slice of the total but monumental compared to the empty promises of the past. More importantly, Danica no longer treated the debt like a punishment. She spoke of it as a responsibility, something she could handle step by step. Therapy sessions grew less raw over time, though there were moments that cut deep. One afternoon, Jalen said to her, "I hated that you made me think it was okay to take from Aunt Ree. But I'm glad she made us stop." Danica flinched but nodded. She didn't try to spin it anymore. Growth had worn away her excuses. Jalen's coding hustle became more than a side project. Words spread in the neighborhood. Barbershops, food joints, Even a local church asked him to build simple sites. He proudly showed me each invoice. Every deposit went into his dual-purpose account, half toward repaying what he owed, half into his education fund. One Sunday evening after dinner, he looked up from his laptop. "I want to major in computer science when I get to college. Do you think I could get there?" "You're already halfway there," I told him. And I meant it. For me, therapy taught the hardest truth of all. I hadn't just been the victim of Danika's choices. I'd been part of the cycle. By shielding her from consequences, I'd helped her believe there never would be any. Dr. Avery's words rang in my ears. Being responsible doesn't mean carrying everyone else's load. I carried mine now, and only mine. Boundaries didn't push my family away. They drew a line they could choose to cross in honesty, or not at all. 3 months after they moved, we sat together in my living room, plates cleared and a movie queued up, our Sunday traditions still intact. Jalen leaned against the couch, notebook in hand, sketching out ideas for his next coding project. Danika sipped tea quietly beside me. "I hated you for it at first," she admitted suddenly. "Freezing my accounts, making us go to therapy. I thought you were cruel, but you were the only one telling me the truth. I see that now." I looked at her, really looked. For the first time in years, there was no angle, no performance. Just a woman tired of running, finally learning to stand. "You don't owe me groveling," I said. "You owe yourself change. And you're doing it." She smiled, small but real. "We couldn't have done it without you holding the line." Jalen nodded, closing his notebook. "You could have called the police. You could have kicked us out. But you gave us a chance to fix it. Thank you for that." I squeezed his shoulder. Everyone deserves the chance to do better. But the choice to change has to be theirs. The movie flickered on, filling the room with soft light. I leaned back into the couch, a quiet peace settling over me. The money still wasn't fully repaid, but that no longer defined us. What mattered was that trust, once shattered, was being rebuilt, one promise kept, $1 repaid, one honest conversation at a time. I'd learned the truth I wish I'd known years ago. Love isn't covering someone else's messes. Love is telling the truth, even when it stings. Love is boundaries. And sometimes, the most loving word you can offer family is the one we fear most: no. Family doesn't thrive on silence, excuses, or endless rescue missions. It grows when honesty, accountability, and love share the same table. Mariah's decision to draw boundaries didn't destroy her family, it saved them. It proved that sometimes the hardest no is the doorway to real change, and that standing firm can be the most powerful act of love. If this story moved you, remember, you're not alone in setting boundaries, confronting betrayal, or demanding respect in your own life. Healing is never simple, but it is possible when we choose truth over comfort. If you've ever had to hold your family accountable or found strength in drawing your own line, share your story in the comments below. Let your voice inspire someone else who may be struggling in silence. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience, boundaries, and transformation, because sometimes the toughest conversations lead to the most meaningful breakthroughs.